Good morning, everybody. This session is about getting practical with AI integration in retail. Quick introduction of who we are. Duncan?
So good morning, my name's Duncan Robson. I'm a client technical leader in retail from IBM. So I work with our big retail clients, putting together all the technology which we run and to help them with their solutions.
I work in the same team as Duncan, and on Fridays I'm a visiting professor of innovation at the University of Leeds, sponsored by the Royal Academy of Engineering. I've created a new module, and interesting thing there, the students work in teams and create a technology prototype in the business value, and the winning team actually based it around AI, so they use visual recognition technology. So AI is getting everywhere, but we're not here to talk about my module. What are we here to talk about? Sorry. Slight clicker problem. So we're here to talk about the integration or the intersection between technology and people in retail. And as you'll see, we're going to take a few risks. So we've actually got quite a lot of technology on stage, and thank you very much to the guys for helping set this all up. We've had a few problems with the Wi-Fi, but hopefully it will all work.
We are completely pushing the boundaries here. We've got live demonstrations. I've got every port on this Mac has something plugged into it. So, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. We are going to take a few risks with the demo, but before we do that, a quick history lesson of retail. And we're doing this by looking at the customer and how they interact with retailers over the years. We've been a little bit cheesy, and we have other customers, they're CEOs of IBM. So our first customer is a guy called Thomas Watson Sr., who actually started IBM. And let's say 100 years ago, when he went to a retailer, to a shop, he'd speak to the shopkeeper and the shop staff. They'd have some technology. They'd have things like bacon slices and weighing scales, which IBM were actually creating at the time. But the shopkeeper, shop staff would use their knowledge and experience, their structured and unstructured data to serve him. And so the structured data might be just a simple price list, a pound of sugar costs a penny or something like that. But that's the start of our history story.
So now we move on to the 1960s, and we have a gentleman here who interestingly is also called Thomas Watson. This is Thomas Watson Jr., and he's following his father's footsteps and he wants to go shopping. So we now have department stores. So again, he needs to go into a store, he needs to work with the store associates who have knowledge and experience. But now we have this magical thing called computers, which also help out. So here we have an IBM mainframe. So this has data and this has structured information. So it's helping the store with things like pricing and maybe a little bit about merchandising, but really early days of computing. But you can see starting to augment the retail experience.
So if we move on to more modern times, the mid to late 1990s, our customer is now called Lou Gerstner. He still goes into a shop and deals with the shopkeeper, the shop staff. There's much more technology now. There's point of sale systems, start to be handheld devices. But there's also this new thing called the internet. So now he can go online and buy something without actually going into a shop or even talking to a retailer. And I don't know if anybody recognizes, but the small graphic is Amazon's first web page for their book selling. Anybody know what year that was? Any guesses? So, obviously I can't hear you because you've all got headphones on, so it's quite noisy, but 1995, so that's when that was first done. But there was quite a lot of technology in the data centers as well, so there's still mainframes, but client server systems, a whole plethora of application support in the store.
So now we move to the modern day, and here we have Ginny. Now Ginny has choices. She can still go to the store, which might be more of an experiential shopping experience, and obviously the stores still have knowledge and experience with their data, but now we're mirroring this over in IT. So we've gone from structured to structured and unstructured data. So we can actually teach these systems things like social media and visual analytics and weather. So the first question is, well, where do you draw the line between the two? And also from a channel perspective, she has a huge amounts of different channels you can go down to go and actually talk to these computer systems. So as well as the web, obviously we can talk through voice, awful lot of things around voice today. We can talk through messaging, we can talk through your phone, we can talk through your watch. And one of the things we see is how do you decide how to engage with your customers? Which part of this arrow do you do first? And I think there's two parts to this. So Tony, just press the button again. So for me, it's all around trust and risk. So do you trust, you have this system now which is being your primary interface into your customer. Do you trust it with your brand and to actually to keep on brand and actually sell the things you want? And also, what's the risk of actually letting the computer completely own the relationship? And what we see is there's going to be this hybrid between technology and people, and a move between these two different sides of the customer engagement. So what we'd like to do now is show a little bit about how technology can help decide how to move between the two sides.
And this is the bit where we take a lot of risks and do all
right,
the
so
the
keep your
demo
fingers
stuff.
crossed. We'll see if this works. Oh, and it has failed already, Tony.
So we just need to set this up. So what's happened, we've had a few problems with the Wi-Fi connecting, mirroring the phone.
So just give us 1 second, and we'll just see if this works. If not, we'll just carry on anyway, it's fine.
That's fine.
So what we're trying to do here is we have a number of demonstrations on the phone which we're trying to actually show on the laptop. So hopefully this will actually allow us to, using the Wi-Fi, to actually stream from the phone to the laptop, to the machine.
Obviously, it all worked yesterday and first thing this morning. So for 1 second. But yeah, we're going to show a series of channels. So the thing that Duncan was talking about in the previous slide, looking about how you can talk to the retailer using the different technology channels, using AI and keeping that conversation across channels as well. So thank you very much, Duncan. We'll make a start. And I've got sort of starting a very traditional chatbot. Maybe chatbots aren't traditional, but you know what I mean. So I'm going to start with just a simple message. Hello, Watson. Watson is the name of our virtual assistant. So there's a slight delay built into this system, but as long as the Wi-Fi is working, Watson should come back to us. This is the bit where we think all the risks that we took weren't worth it, but so Watson has come back. But I'm going to change now from doing the chatbot to a voice conversation. So I'm going to ask Watson one of the typical sort of frequently asked questions that we've put AI to work on initially. Where is my order?
I think the Wi-Fi stopped, Tony.
So let's try that again. Where is my order? Where is my order? If everybody could stop using the Wi-Fi, that would be
So what we can see here is we're actually looking at the sentiment from this. So why don't we just go on to the next demonstration and we'll try that one.
Yeah, sure.
So what we've also done is, the way this works is we have a complete back-end system, and each of these are different channels. So what we've also done is built this into Facebook Messenger. So if I go to Facebook Messenger, I can go, hello. And in this situation, I've got a broken phone. So how can I assist? So let's say my phone is broken. Now that makes me quite sad, and the actual system's picked up that I'm sad. So even now, in the back system, the AI is thinking, well, maybe I actually need to do something slightly different with this customer, but I'll carry on and see how we get on. So I'm very here to hear that. So what model phone have you got? So I've got an iPhone 8, so let's put iPhone 8 in.
The connection's gone again.
Has it? Okay, so I put an iPhone 8 into this. And what it's actually said to me is, allow me to find a solution. It seems I need to send your phone off for 10 weeks to get it repaired. Is this okay? Clearly, this is not okay. I'm really, really cross. Quite frankly, I'm fed up using this channel. I'm going to go and moan at the Alexa I've got sitting on my desk here. So, Alexa, tell customer services, I'm really cross. I'm really angry about this. What can I do?
I'm sorry to see you so
Microphone.
upset. Would you like me to pass you to a human representative who can help further?
Right. And this should, so this is not going well, is it, Tony? We will then have, actually, the anger will go right up to 10, because I'm really cross about it. And they'll actually allow me to pass you to a customer services representative. So what we're showing here is the ability to actually use what's called Watson Tone Analytics to analyze the conversation and decide which channel to send you down.
So we've had problems with the Wi-Fi, but this does work. So the way we were doing this was basically having the conversation through a chatbot, through voice, through Facebook Messenger and also through Alexa, and the same conversation and keeping that persistent as we went. And the technology, the AI, was understanding what we were saying and having the conversation with us, but also it was understanding from the words we were using how we felt, and using that to make decisions about switching between using the technology and the people. So in this case, making a recommendation, say, I can see you're angry, would you like me to put you through to a human representative?
So for the architects in the room, we're both IT architects, you might be interested in how we've actually done that. So what IBM's done is created a whole series of patterns for scenarios using artificial intelligence. And what we can see here is the chat human-computer interface section, the side of things. So I won't go through this in depth, but what we've done is, at the back end of this, we have our application logic, we have our conversation engine, which is using Watson Assistant. We have our APIs down here, so we have things like tone analytics to actually understand the tone. We also do sentiment analysis. We have a discovery service, which is where we ingest all of the information for our clients and actually allow us to ask questions against them. And then we have some edge services, and then we go out to the endpoint. So I think the key point with this is, we don't really care what the endpoint is, whether it's Alexa, whether it's Facebook, whether it's your own application. The application logic stays exactly the same, so you can have consistent conversations across all of your channels, and the state is held at the back end. And we also have a whole series of services which actually allow you to talk to your back-end systems as well.
Yeah, so you can integrate with your order management system, say, where is my order, to where is the delivery, any sort of systems. As long as you can connect to them and integrate with them, you can bring them into the conversation, and the AI, or the IBM Watson in this case, understanding of your interaction with the retailer. And as we saw with the one thing as well, that it can use this information in terms of how you're feeling to then do that switching between the technology and the people channels as well.
Yeah, and I think going back to the practicality of this, what we find is having this all central and actually building it into your core systems, meaning you make it supportable and maintainable, and you don't have this issue where, apart from the Wi-Fi, where the services are all sitting out on the edge.
Yeah.
So, we thought we'd try another demo as well. We'll see how it goes, Tony, anyway. So we did build another demonstration to show about customer service, but in terms of agility, I was actually down at our research labs on Tuesday down at IBM Hursley. And one of the things that we're looking at is how do you respond back to a customer? So we're talking to this AI system. We understand the tone which is happening. What's the best way to respond back, especially through voice? So one of the things that we've been developing out in our Haifa labs out in Israel is this virtual voice creator. So this is looking at how do you put emotion into the voice. So if somebody phones in and they're very angry, like I was, how can you actually be empathic back to them and not just sound like a very flat voice? Or if you're trying to do some upsell, how do you make it excitable? So hot off the press, I've literally had half an hour to play with this, but we thought we'd show it to you in the spirit of retail tech and trying to do something a little bit different. Also, interestingly, I can't actually hear what it sounds like because I'm not wearing headphones. I'll put headphones on. There we go. Oh, this is strange as well. So I'll just set up two voices. The first one is an excited person, so I need to put this text down. So we'll put it cited. Are we getting any sounds? This is the question. Oops.
We're having a connection problem again.
Yeah. Are we getting sound out the back of the laptop? No.
Don't worry.
Don't
It's
worry.
probably the connection.
So I think
There's a moral from this story, isn't there?
there is a moral to the story. Don't trust the Wi-Fi.
Create videos of everything and just use those rather than try the live things on stage.
So when we click on the excited person, it does sound very excited, and we can change the mood here from neutral to excited or neutral to sad. And I also built a sad voice as well, which is also very sad.
But I think the key thing is you can dynamically start to change the tone of the voice during the conversation. So it'll be the same voice, but it'll be reacting to the way the people are talking to you, and the AI can do that as well. So I think we should probably ditch all demos from now on.
Let's do. We've learned from last year. So that was talking around voice. So another thing that we've been looking at is actually body language. So this is a project which we did with one of a major hotel chain, looking at how can we build a concierge. So we've seen concierges before where the robot will talk, but how do you actually make it so the body language matches what's being said?
Or
so
for anybody that was in yesterday morning session, dance as well, the Gangnam Style dance that they
so
did.
I'm not sure Gangnam Style is, yes, will persuade people, but very, very exciting. So it's how can the robot actually, when they point and when they're talking to you, the same way I am, or how they actually to gesture. So we have a project called IBM Neo, and this is looking at all the different robots' functions, so the perception, what the robot understands, how it works, the models, all the actuators, but then linking it back into all the tone analytics, actually the behavior research that we've been doing. So going back to responding back to people, how you can go from a text to a voice to actually body language as well.
Yeah. So one of the things that we're finding is there's a huge number and growing number of use cases for AI in retail. And if we start with some of the things around customer experience, some of the areas around things like conversational commerce. Last year we did some demos and they did all work. And we demoed natural language search and also some of the visual recognition searches as well. So a customer can come onto your website, they can post an image of one of their friends wearing a t-shirt or a celebrity from Instagram or a magazine or whatever, wearing a dress saying, I want that. And then your website can find the closest match it's got from that visual recognition and make recommendations for people to buy them. So there's all of those type of things. We've sort of talked about some of the customer service type interactions you can use AI for, have that intelligent conversation with your customer. Duncan's talked about the concierge example. Supply chain, I think, is going to be a huge area for AI. Things like demand forecasting, product mix. Quite an interesting one, supply chain advisor. One of the things IBM's done internally is, on our own supply chain, trained our own AI, Watson, up in the patterns of activity that happens in our supply chain. And from that, it can identify issues and anomalies before the team know they're going to happen. So maybe a shipment's going to be late, there's a risk of something, and it can flag those up to the team, and then the team actually use Watson as a team member. So they can say, Watson, what's going to be the financial implication of this problem? Or Watson, who should we involve in fixing the problem? Because Watson's got all the knowledge globally of all the other things that have been done in the supply chain in IBM. So that's something we've done in IBM, then created a product we've taken to market using that AI called Watson Supply Chain Insights. Some very interesting ones around product development and merchandising. And so things like trend identification, using AI in the creative process itself. And we're doing a lot of work at the moment around something we've called cognitive fashion, which is allowing buyers, merchandisers, and designers to use information from things like, it could be from the big shows, it could be from social media, it could be from customers posting images on your website of what they want, and then making recommendations, what are the hot patterns, the hot colors, the hot shapes that they should be designing products in, and by staying on trend, the key there is you can reduce markdowns because you're ordering in what people want. So I think that's a really exciting area we're looking at the moment. Then things like marketing, so social insights, social media insights, but also we've got a marketing advisor in the same way we've got a supply chain advisor. So that's not an exhaustive list. I think the key thing for me is there's just so many areas where AI can start to really drive business value in retail. Which ones you use as a retailer will depend on your own business, your own customers, your own employees, where your business is. So we're not saying you do all these, you pick and choose the ones most relevant for your own business. Don't start with the technology, start with the business challenge and the opportunity, and then apply. Sometimes it'll be AI, sometimes it won't to those challenges.
And I think also experimentation and trying things quickly is really important. As you can see by this t-shirt, I'm part of one of the hackathon teams. So as well as pushing the tech to limits, so I pushed myself personally, only had about 3 hours sleep. I've been coding all night as well. But actually just trying stuff out is really important. Actually getting it out to the marketplace quickly and seeing how it performs.
Yeah. So a few challenges that we've seen from working with retailers in this area that we think retailers need to consider. The first one is about adoption. So that's adoption both of the technology from your customer's point of view and the adoption, for example, for customers for a discount supermarket might be very different from a higher end supermarket, their customers. So you've got to think about the adoption of your customers. Equally, you need to think about the adoption of your employees. I mentioned the IBM supply chain solution. And I was talking to the global transformation of supply chain in IBM about this, and I asked him, what did the people think? And he said, we were worried they'd all think that this is something that's coming along to take their jobs out, which it wasn't. It was actually something to allow them to do a lot more, but with the same size team. And after a while, they really got into the technology, and they're now making videos of the things they're doing with Watson to share with a global team, so short videos of what they're doing. But you do need to think about the adoption of your employees for this type of technology.
So the second one is keeping the tech on brand. Now this has two aspects to it. There's first about actually what is your brand image and what the brand image that your company is trying to project. And we're working with a number of companies on this, and it's quite an interesting conversation. It goes beyond tech. It's a lot more into behavioral theory. So how do you codify your brand in the language that you use and the way that you interact with people? And the second part to this is, if you let these learning systems loose on the internet, you can see an almost dystopian future where if they don't see your competitor and understand their prices and offer, how do you make sure that they don't go and push the customer somewhere different? So I think that's some really interesting open questions. We don't have the answer to these at the moment, but questions you need to think about when you actually start to ingest these huge volumes of data.
Which links into the third bullet about designing for success. So you mentioned, Duncan, about doing MVPs and doing things very quickly, but you also need to think about what the business challenge is, what are you looking to do, where's the business value you're looking to derive from this, and building in some of these factors, thinking about the branding, and as we'll talk about in a moment, bias and so on into it, to make sure you get the best results. We ran an event on AI for IBM's retail customers last week, and from a leading fashion retailer was talking, I won't say which one, but was talking to us about their initial deployment of AI, and they said they rushed into it and they hadn't really thought through where they were going to get success, what the key business value was. And now they've taken a step back and they're actually getting a lot better results from what they're looking to do now, and they're working very closely with us in terms of where they're going to go in that. What are the lessons that we've learned from working with other organizations and so on?
So the fourth one is managing bias. So bias is very hot in the press at the moment, and IBM's taking this very seriously. So we're working with a number of major research organizations to understand bias, what is bias, and how do you ask questions around bias. So rather than me doing all the talking, I'll just show a very short video. So I think it's really important to think about AI in the terms of the values of your company and how you'd actually going to impart those into the system. We have also written a white paper around this, so if you'd like more details, you can contact Tony and myself, or look it up online, and it defines what AI bias is and actually how to recognize it and the questions to ask to start to tackle it.
And interestingly, this is something that academics are looking at as well. My role at the University of Leeds, I've just linked in some of the researchers there to some of the researchers in IBM who are looking at bias as well. So it's a very interesting area. So our conclusions, it's gone off screen, but that's fine. So our conclusions basically are that apart from the fact of don't try too many demos on stage, it's all about the integration of people and technology in retail. And there's some great things you can do with the technology. And I think AI is getting better all the time. But you can't do it in isolation. You need to do it very much integrated with the people. But basically, retail is, is still about buying things, moving them around, selling them, and engaging customers. There's just more ways that you can do that now. And the key thing we think, we were trying to show you earlier on, is how you can move more seamlessly between these, but understand your customers, understand what they're saying, understand what they're thinking and feeling, so you can do that in a much more effective way.
So just to finish, this has been a very, very quick walkthrough, and unfortunately due to the demonstration. So in an agile perspective, we have learnt what to do next time. But we do have a really great conference on the 14th of November 2018, which is called Where Technology Meets Humanity, where we're going more in depth around how AI is proving the linkage between people and IT. So if you'd like more information, again, see Tony and myself, or see it online.
And I think we've got a couple of minutes left where we can do questions before we have to dash off for the...
Yeah, I have to dash off and actually go and present on the hackathon. So if you'd like to support our team, that'd be great as well. Thank you very much.
But we'll also be around just afterwards as well. So questions on the slide? I think, any questions on the slider?
Yeah.
No questions online. Anybody want to raise a question in the room?
So how do you see voice, natural language developing various languages other than English? Now this is really important, so do you want to go with this one?
No, that's fine.
Okay. So we work part of a global team, and we actually had a conference over in Dallas where we all got together. And this was raised again. So we are looking at extending the languages as much as possible. I know from the Watson perspective, we've gone out to a lot more different languages. So I know we do French and Spanish and all these sorts of languages now.
And I think those languages are growing all the time.
Yeah.
So I think.
I think this is going to extend. It is well recognised in the industry, especially from our perspective, and we are extending them.
And I think if you've got a multi-country contact centre and people come through, then the sort of thing we were talking about earlier on about understanding. The technology be able to understand what language somebody's talking into and respond to them in that language as well. So I think that's a really good question.
Right. I think that's the only question.
I think we're going to leave it there. I think it's about a minute left anyway. So please do come and have a chat with us afterwards. We think this is a great area. There's a huge amount going on. We're working with lots of retailers in it. You do need to think about the things we were talking about, but I think there's so much business value you can get from it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well.